much. All viewers who come back, once again I just have to share the stream quickly. Whilst we just wait. Messed up a little bit there. There we go, that's all shared now. So we get underway for the formation lap. Run you through the grid very quickly. Kazakhs did take that pole position right at the end ahead of Silly Sly Guy in the Alfa Romeo. P3 will be Netsky. Once again, a very good lap towards the end of this session. Trainman then in that Ferrari struggled very early on. Couldn't quite keep the car on the track, but managed in the end to go P4. TRT James as well wasn't really up there until the end, ahead of that guy Sven in the McLaren. Set the pace early on, but did drop back in the end. James's teammate Vapor Shea got up into the 4th row of the grid again. Another late lap, putting them up there. Ahead of Rainman in that Alpha Tauri. And Fefster completes our top 10. Those drivers just listed will have to start this race on the tyres they qualified on in the session. See a 2-stop for everyone starting on those soft tyres. Outside of the top 10 then we do have Timmy in the Mercedes ahead of Rymsey, who is the lead driver start on the hard tyres ahead of Jimbo Mansi. In the McLaren, Racing Points then down in 14th and 15th, Hindle ahead of Jay Prentice. Different strategies for the Pink Panthers ahead of Tribe, who gave his teammate what looked like quite a nice tow at the end of the session. And Liam rounds up the back of the grid. Will start on the medium tyres, hopefully go longer into this race. And they will see what they can do from there. The drivers come up to the grid. The front two are side by side. That shouldn't affect too much. To pull up onto the grid then. Down at the back we can see when they are all in place and we're ready to go. There we go. All drivers are lined up on the grid as we get ready for the lights to come on. 5 lights are on, and we go green in Bahrain. There's like a good start from both drivers on the front row there. That one of the Haas cars hitting the wall towards the back. Kazakhs looks to have held the lead down towards turn 1. So he turns in there further back. It's all looking good. Netsky has jumped up into P2 ahead of the Alfa Romeo. James also jumping Trainman there towards the back. Well, not to back there at the front. Shouldn't affect too much as the Red Bull there goes spinning off into the wall. I'm not sure which one that was. That was Tribe. Getting tagged by someone going into the wall just before turn 4. So they come Linus third, now into the second sector. A couple of cars going side by side further back. Great start from Liam, jumping from the 17th up to P12. So further back, drivers here going side by side through the quick downhill corner. Very good start from Hindle as well, I did miss that. Hindle's gone from P14 all the way up to P6 at the start, so a very good start from the Racing Point. Kazakhs now leads from a second. at the front of the field. One of the Williams cars did disconnect briefly, so they would have dropped down the field. One lap down, then 28 to go. Kazakhs leads by 1.6 seconds over the line from Netsky, who actually goes side by side with the Alfa Romeo. Believe that is Silly Sly Guy. My talent screen has messed up a little bit. Online not perfect in this game yet. So last Silly Sly Guy up to P2, Netsky down to P3 with, I believe, James in P4. A couple guys coming into the pits at the end of that lap. Rain Man, Sven and Jay Prentice all pitting, clearly getting front wing damage. As we see the second Red Bull of Kazakhs retiring from the race. And we have a safety car in Bahrain. Both Red Bulls out then on only lap 2. Here in the desert in the Middle East. Believe Silly Sly Guy leads the way from Netsky. In P2 it was would have been almost a 2-second gap, I do believe, before the Red Bull made a mistake in the middle sector. So the screen does look to have sorted itself out now. James very nearly rear-ending Netsky into 13. Behind them we have Train Man in P4. Hindle gaining a lot of positions at the start. They're starting 14th. Up into 5th. Lund there pretty much where they started, so they'll be happy with that. Timmy, Jimbo, Liam and Rhymesy would also be happy with that, all gaining a lot of positions at the start. Behind then Fefster and Shea. A lot of drivers coming to the pits. I'd imagine that's everyone on the soft tyres that would come in to get rid of those, apart from Fefster, who does stay out. Jimbo Mansi then leads the way here in Bahrain. Started quite far down, gained 12 positions so far. Still be very happy with that one indeed. See a little further back, everyone here has pitted. Hinder then in P8 must have pitted as well, as they were running higher. You can see Jay Prentice now coming into the pits as well. We just see everyone has stopped in the bottom 10 now as it stands. Top 4 yet to make a stop as they all started on harder tyres. Liam has gone from P17 to P2 in less than 3 laps there. Yes, everyone else pitted ahead of them. But that wouldn't be... She's not taking anything away from the Mercedes driver. He put his car there. Very good start there. So now look at position changes. 12 positions gained for our current leader. 15 gained for second, 9 gained for third, and 6 gained for Fester in fourth. However, I do think that Haas up in P4 may come into the pits this lap. The only driver starting on the softs that did not pit. You can see quite a nice funky helmet there for our race leader. Sort of a blue and neon green and a black. Reminiscent of Lando Norris's helmet from real life. As Fester does in fact come into the pits here. Looking further down, Silly Sly Guy has lost 2. That was because of their pit stop. James now holding position from the start after their stop. 7 up for Hindle. Most of the drivers have lost positions at this stage of the race due to them stopping. Top 3 are the only cars not to have pitted in this race. as they started on the hard tyres or the medium tyres. Liam will be looking very racy at this when we get going, possibly at the end of this lap, maybe the next one, as he's on the softer compound compared to that of Jimbo's. Currently in the lead, however, 4th place, Silly Sly Guy. Will be looking to improve on that P4, brand new medium tyres on his Alfa Romeo. So I'll definitely want to be improving there. Started second, so definitely have the pace here. Really going to test our lead drivers now, how good they are at defending. They will obviously be going very long into this race. We have 29 laps together. I'd imagine the hard tyres will do most of those 29. So now come up through the end of the second sector. Safety car will come in this lap, so it's now up to Jimbo and that lead McLaren to depict how fast they'll go. It's quite rare you see a leader at the end of a safety car on the hard tyres. You're about to see it now. So we'll look back from our leader at the second place just to get a very good view of when they decide to bolt. Safety car still nowhere near the pit entry. There's going to be a late restart here. The drivers come pretty much single file through the final couple of corners. Safety car is in the pits and our leader decides to bolt then. Looks like to have caught the others off guard. However, James back in P5 has jumped a car. It's moved up ahead of one of the Alfa Romeos as they go side by side into the braking zone of turn 1. Squeezes him a little bit. Looks to get up the other side of the second Alfa Romeo. It looks like a little tap on the outside as a little bit of contact between the teammates. The Ferrari then goes off into the wall. Haven't been told they've retired, so that's just the front wing broken for them. Once again, James goes side by side with an Alfa Romeo. I believe Rhymesy went around the outside of both James and his teammate into turn 1. Very good move there. 3-second time penalty for the Ferrari, who had that incident just now coming out of turn 2. Don't know if there's contact or if they lost it on their own. Once again, the leader is pulling away. Jimbo pulling 1.5 seconds pretty much ahead of Liam, as Liam goes side by side with Silly Sly Guy through turn 11. Seems to have pulled that move off up the inside and held it around the outside of 12, so he'll look to now chase down our leader. Further down the field, just seen Shay get past that guy Sven. However, another battle once again in through turn 14. Liam and James absolutely going at it. Liam lost the position through turn 11, looks to lose another one now. Dad coming down into turn 1 on lap 6 of 29. We'll dive that up the inside. A little bit of contact, but that should all be fine, as Liam has held it around the outside. There is yellow flags. Don't think anyone spun, so that's all fine towards the back. James once again looking desperate to get past Liam here. Seems to definitely have the pace over the Mercedes driver, as we see both Sven and Trainman in the pits after that restart lap. The gap at the front has come down. Silly Sly Guy has caught up to Jimbo in just a couple of sectors. So watch that fight then as they come across one of the old or alternative pit straights. Sly Guy then up the inside into turn 11. Pretty simple move considering the tire advantage the Alfa Romeo has. Jimbo will now look to hold on to that P2 and try and stay with the Alfa Romeo, as he has 2 seconds himself over Liam, who is fighting very hard to keep P3 ahead of TRT James. Qualified 5th in this race. Did make that early stop. Liam has not stopped yet. One of the 3 drivers who have started on a harder compound at the start did not pit under the safety car. It's Come down into turn 1. It looks like Lund, they're getting very feisty as well. He tries to go around the outside. Looks like they've done it as well. Lund goes around the outside of James at turn 1. Very nice move there. James to cover the inside, lost a little bit of momentum. So I'll come up into turn 4, who are looking to take that podium position away from Liam, who seems to be on it when it comes to defending. So some battles all through the field. DRS was enabled at the start of this lap, so that will really help London getting past Liam for that final podium position. So they do activate the overtake as well. Liam goes defensive to the inside, coming down to turn 11. However, goes back to the racing line and tries it up the inside, doesn't quite pull off for him. Liam will be able to carry more speed around the outside and then hold it coming into the final sector. Battle at the front is now over a second, so we don't see much changing there. This battle will also be helping out Jimbo a lot, as he's able to just run on that racing line carrying optimum speed. Whilst there's a mecha battle for P3 behind him once again. So you see the Haas get past the Mercedes a lot better coming into turn 1. He's done it way before the braking zone. Pretty much across the start finish line. We also see Liam have to go a little bit defensive, as once again James putting the pressure on that Mercedes. Liam showing he doesn't quite have the ultimate pace after qualifying down in 17th, but it definitely has some race pace here. Absolutely defending for their life. Very clean and fair as well, which is what we all love to see. As I say that, I jinxed him again. My deepest apologies there. Commentator's curse. He spins it coming out of turn 8. To our third retirement, we have a safety car again then on lap 8. That will allow Sven and Trainman to catch up to the back of the field. So a lot of action there in those couple of laps under green flag. However, it all will be neutralised once more. Liam was there putting in quite a good drive. Hadn't stopped quite yet. We may see a couple drivers come into the pits now, as our leader does decide to pit. Once again, I don't think Jimbo, he actually does. Didn't expect to see that, as the Haas of Lund, after that excellent move just a couple laps ago, will take the lead ahead of Rainman in the AlphaTauri. Fefster as well in P3, so he's once again back up into that top group of cars ahead of Hindle. In P4, everyone else has looked to come back into the pit lane, so our leader, Silly Sly Guy, has dropped down to P5. Put the hard tyres on, they will be going to the end of the race. And Timmy has put on the intermediate tyres. Not entirely sure why he's done that. I don't think it's raining. Very rare to see rain here in the desert. If we just check, that is a green wall tyre on that Mercedes. I don't know if that was intentional. I doubt it was. They shouldn't be too bad for them to be able to come into the pits this lap and put on a slick tyre. They'll be losing a lot of time if this was under green flag. Luckily for Timmy, we are under safety car. Haas first and third then here on lap 9 after the second neutralised period of the race. Drivers that pitted then looks to be 5th place down to 12th. So 7 or 8 of the drivers there opting to come into the pit. Some's going for the soft. It's like mediums for Jimbo. That won't quite take him to the end. So we're looking for another safety car period a little bit later on. However, Selly Sligo will be going to the end of the race from here, so will Netsky down in P8. In the Alpha Tauri we'll have one more lap under safety car by the looks of things, as Sven and Trainman have just caught up to the back of the field. Timmy does in fact come into the pit lane, as you would expect. They're putting on the inters. Again, not the best of choices there. They would have been overheating very quickly. But that could have been strategic from the Mercedes driver. Possibly saving. As they've gone for soft tyres now, they won't go to the end of the race. I thought maybe he would put the inters on for one lap, come into the pits, and then go for a sort of medium tyre that may go to the end. Will take a lot of tyre conservation, however. I believe both Haas cars will have to make another stop here. Rainman might just get to the end on the hard tyre, but I won't be able to push for all 19 laps after this one. Hindered as well in P4, pitted under the last safety car. Back up into 4th then in that racing point. Teammate down in P10, put on a fresh set of soft tyres. So we'll be very strong. Looks like the 4 drivers on softs, they're going for a very aggressive strategy here. So they'll definitely be the ones to watch, especially James in P7. Looked very strong on the medium compounds before this safety car. It'll be interesting what they can do now they're on the softs. We'll have to stop again in this race, as the safety car does indeed come in at the end of this lap. This time it will be Lund in the Haas to get us underway. Just weaving to get as much tyre temperature into that car as they can get. Seems to be leaving a lot more space to the safety car than Jimbo did. Possibly looking to bolt out of the final corner. But I have to slow them up a little bit more. A safety car now gets into the pit lane. Slows them right down and then decides to bolt, leaving Rainman for absolute shreds. Right in the background as well, Vapor Shea is out of the race. I just about caught that. In the corner of my eyes, the drivers come almost 4 abreast there down towards turn 1. Not entirely sure who's involved with that. Looks like Racing Point, both the Alfa Romeos. I think there's a McLaren as well of Jimbo in there, as a couple of cars have spun out, being James and Fester. Silly Sligo then up into P3. A couple of yellow flags out there, shouldn't affect the drivers too much. Hindle stays 4th, Netsky up to 5th from 8th, so a very good restart for the AlphaTauri driver. Jay Prentice from 10th up to 6th as well. Jimbo looks to have lost a position or two as they go side by side with his teammate Sven in the middle sector. The Alfa Romeo then diving up the inside of Rhymesy. Gets past the McLaren driver. Timmy up to P10, gained a couple of positions there. Would have been helped by a Vapor Shea, who lost the back coming round the final corner. At the front of the field, 1 second the gap, not pulling away quite as quick as our previous leaders have done. But still getting that gap. We'll need 2 seconds by the start of the next lap, so lap 13, in order to not allow DRS to Rainman. The overtake mode deployed, not quite close enough, has a look to the inside, but does think better as we do have a move further down the grid. Compound tyres. Has a lot more grip in that Mercedes than that McLaren did. 2 more cars into the pit lane, James and Fester. Both onto the hard tyres, will go to the end of the race. Racing team, my internet is going just a little bit. We should be more than fine to continue. So the battle for second is now a lot closer than it was just now. Rainman goes a little defensive into 11. As we have yellow flags, TRT James has lost it coming out of turn 4, hit the wall on the inside, and we have a virtual safety car this time. Third neutralisation of the race. The field won't bunch up this time, so that will leave Fester over half a minute off the back of everyone else. DRS would have been enabled as our leaders cross the line now. So when we go green, shouldn't be too long now as the car has been removed. DRS will be available for our drivers. Jay Prentice on those soft tyres gained 5 positions already in just a couple of laps. A very strong restart for the Racing Point driver on the soft tyre. Other 2 drivers on the soft are Romsey and Timmy. So we're looking to move even further up the field. Obviously Timmy did drop down to what was 13th as we go green. DRS does get enabled. That should really help Silly Sluggers. Looks like we had one of the Racing Points going a little bit wide. Looked to have gotten away with. Actually, no, it was Netsky that ran wide. She's now under considerable pressure from Jimbo in that McLaren. Looks up the inside into turn 9 as the Racing Point goes horribly deep, locking up the brakes. Drop down to P8 as the battle for second. Let's have a look what's happening there. Nothing quite yet. 2.4 seconds very briefly there as the gap between first and second. Haas both leading the field and towards the back after that incident on the safety car restart. The Racing Points running absolute line astern, as well as Jimbo there as well. Got ahead of the Alfa Romeo. He may have already been there. Now Romsey on the soft tyre putting pressure on the McLaren. Actually got a better X out of the final corner as you would expect from the soft tyres. Comes across the line. Tucks back in for the slipstream as the battle for second has changed. Silly Sligo getting up the inside there of Rainman into turn 1. Looking very strong for the Alfa Romeo at this point. Jay Prentice also getting past his teammate into turn 1. And Jimbo holding off from Romsey, who now comes under attack from Timmy in that Mercedes. Can't quite make the move there. Because both drivers on the soft tyre, so they will have equal amounts of grip. We also have Netsky down there in 9th place. Was running up in, I believe, P6, but went deep here just 1 lap ago, lost a couple of positions. So you see once again though Jimbo coming under considerable pressure from Romsey. Down into 11. Looks like the Alfa Romeo looked to go up the inside a little bit into turn 9. But Jimbo held it just around the outside. They weren't quite side by side. But it looks like the Alfa Romeo's nose did get a little stuck up the inside. Trying to force an error from the McLaren driver, who has looked very consistent so far in this race. May very well see a change here as Timmy gets a much better X out of the final corner and has gotten past Romsey even before the start finish line. And in fact dives up the inside of Jimbo into turn 1. 2 moves gained, or 2 positions gained on 1 straight over. Jimbo will hold it around the outside, get the inside for turn 2. Squeezes the Mercedes a little bit, but it does inevitably lose that spot. So the Mercedes has to go a little bit defensive now, or thinks about going defensive, from Romsey just behind them. Very good move from Timmy there. Gets one car on the exit and the other car down, held it around the outside of turn 2, which is very hard to do. Clearly just different entire compounds helping out massively. So we are now around the halfway mark of this race. Lund in the Haas car still leads from Silly Sligo. The gap looks to have come down a little bit, but the Alfa Romeo will not be looking to push too hard and try and manage his tyres to the end of the race, which shouldn't be too difficult of a job. Rainman runs in P3 as well on the hard tyres, looking to go to the end. Will be a little bit harder as those tyres are 7 laps older than that of the Alfa Romeo's. Jay Prentice, after a fantastic restart from the safety car just now as Hindle comes into the pits, was in P10 at the end of the last safety car as Jay Prentice actually gets past Rainman Coming down into turn 1 again, Rainman just not looking to push too hard. Definitely trying to get to the end on those tyres. Our leader may still have to pit, P3 may still have to pit. In fact, P3 will definitely have to pit. P4 has a very good chance of getting to the end. P5, 6 and 7 may all have to pit, so they'll be looking to push even harder whilst they're on the softer tyres. In fact, they may all put on another set of brand new softs to go to the end of this race. The end of their drop down to P11. These safety cars definitely have helped some drivers, but they would have more than likely hindered some as well. It's like battle further back then for P7. Romsey and Netsky were very close coming into turn 11. The Alfa Romeo seem to have broken away a little bit as Trainman catches up to the back of this train. No pun intended. The AlphaTauri actually running out of ERS there coming down into turn 14, so he's going to struggle a lot from the Ferrari behind, as he has over half the battery still left to use. He decides not to use it. Coming down into turn 1, thinks better of the move there. Could have had a little look, but thinks better, just opting not to make it. Further up, we can see Timmy has gotten past Rainman. The AlphaTauri now dropping to P5. May already be struggling on those tyres for temperature. As he now comes under pressure from the McLaren behind him. The lead of the McLarens. Oh, and he spins it as well coming out of turn 8. Clearly a very tricky spot there. Just putting the power down a little bit early. Nicely waits for all the cars to come past and so he avoids causing any collisions. Of course, unlucky once again, another driver. He managed, I don't believe the front wing got broken there for his AlphaTauri. So not quite the end of the world for them. But they did lose 5 positions. Battle for the lead is getting increasingly close, so is the battle for third. However, both these cars will have to make another stop, as I have repeated many times already. Jay Prentice as well, as actually both of them come in. As we say, that's why our leader comes into the pits, so Silly Sly Guy will resume the lead of the race. Actually, no, Timmy did not pit. Just got a slipstream from the AlphaTauri, I want to say. And that would have been the Racing Point car, my apologies. As Hindle gains 3 positions there coming down towards turn 1. Gets back up ahead of his teammate. Rainman also pits, puts on a brand new set of mediums which will easily take him to the end of the Grand Prix. Expecting Timmy in this lap, which will give a second place to Jimbo Mansi in that McLaren. Currently defending from Netsky in P4. Another AlphaTauri who has had their troubles today. Went deep into turn 10 not long ago, dropping from something like P5 down towards 10th. Got back up into P4 after a couple pit stops. Seems to have recovered nicely. We'll be looking to go to the end, as will our leader. The Mercedes up in second should be in this time around. And he's going even longer, okay. Different strategy there for Timmy. Definitely trying to get it to just stretch out that stint, put on the soft tyres towards the end of the race. You have a battle between the two Racing Points further down, although Netsky is right up behind the McLaren. Jimmy doesn't feel the need to go defensive into turn 4. Will also have a little bit better grip at this point in the race. Both tyres on the same tyre life in terms of they've both been on for 9 laps. Those mediums will have a little bit more grip for the time being. You see another, obviously, Netski locking up into turn 10 once again. And it is a very tricky corner there. You're turning, going downhill and braking all at the same time. So locking up your front left is very easily done. Again, it seems that Netski is just using the overtake whenever. I noticed it is a thing in this game. Luckily it hasn't happened to myself yet. But your overtake can get stuck on. That very well may be what's happening to Netski at this point. Just not being able to push, as all their battery is getting used through the corners. However, he will look to the inside, coming down to turn 1. Looks like he's braked later. Gets to the inside, no defense from Jimbo this time around. However, obviously Netski, that's how late the move was. He actually had the DRS as well. Actually, there isn't a detection zone. So if you make the move into turn 1, you automatically get DRS. Coming down to turn 4, looks like Timmy did make that stop for soft tyres. And has split the Racing Point cars ahead of Jay Prentice, now behind Hindle. We have had a McLaren spin at turn 8 as well. That looks like it's that guy Sven. Seems to have gotten going again, but did lose out to Lund. We'll just see if we can check that front wing of the McLaren. Doesn't use DRS, and there we go, finally opens it. Try to see if we can get a front shot of that McLaren. There we go, did not hit the wall. Did lose some time. As Timmy once again pushing on in this race. Trusker on the outside of turn 12, that won't quite happen. Looks toward the inside for 13, once again not quite finding the space. So run down the back straight now, down into 14. It's looking like quite an easy move here for the Mercedes towards turn 1. We'll get a better exit, and once again is passed before they come across the start-finish line. Seeing a lot of drivers being able to do that. So gets the DRS as well as being ahead towards turn 1, and we'll also get it up to turn 4 due to how this track is. There he is, opens it again. Actually, apparently there is a detection zone there somewhere, as Hindle got the DRS coming up to turn 4. It's not marked on the track map, but that must, unless it's the speed trap at the same time. Battle for third, still a little bit interesting. The gap is under 1 second. Train Man up in P4 there, quite a good recovery from them after being at the back of the grid for some time. So it looks like Rhymesy and Jay Prentice getting very close. Both on fairly fresh medium tyres. Both will be looking to go to the end of this race. Our leader has just started lap 22 of 29. Not too long left to go then here for the Bahrain Grand Prix. As the Ferrari, both Jimbo and Train Man pitted. From his medium tyres, will put soft tyres on, try and push for a fastest lap. However, the Ferrari did pick up a 5-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. Lund then moves back up into 3rd, Sven into 4th. And Timmy, who has already pitted for softs, moves up into 5th. Both the Racing Points then, Hindle and Jay Prentice, 6th and 7th. Rhymesy P8, who pitted not too long ago either. Then we have Jimbo and Train Man, who are now on brand new soft tyres. Rain Man and Fefster not quite had the luck this race. Just a couple of mistakes from the pair of them as put them at the back of the field. Let's come through the middle sector. Looks like Sven is now coming under increasing pressure from the Mercedes. We'll defend the inside coming down to turn 11. We'll also hold the position. However, Timmy will get a much better run coming up the hill, and in fact we'll go around the outside of turn 12. What a move there from Mercedes. Looked to try and do it on Hindle, didn't quite work. Has got it on Sven, whose tyres are much older, as well as being the hard compound. Timmy now will be definitely looking to push for that podium position. Lund's not too far up the road, and also both our leaders on, I wouldn't say worn quite yet, but they are 13 lap old hard tyres. Purple sector 3 for Timmy as well. Finally gets a bit of track to himself. Look to push onto the back of the Haas car. See Sven as well, kind of holding on for dear life with his tyres. May come under pressure from both Hindle and Jay Prentice towards the end of this race. It's a very tasty battle here. Freeway fight for P8. Jimbo there moving up into 8th, and then the Ferrari of Trainman also making the move. Looked to have got bashed out of the way just a little bit. However, Jimbo, after making that recent stop onto the soft tyres, moved up a position. Trainman went a little bit wide on the entry to turn 8, just taking avoiding action. So they come down the back straight once again, one of 3 back straights here. Jimbo looked to have come rejoin the track from a wide position there. May have made a mistake into turn 11. So you are watching the middle of the 3 cars. So they now run down to turn 14. Sorry about that. Now move back for P8 as Ramsey gets past Jimbo. Down towards turn 1, the Alfa Romeo did go a little bit, did spit the back end out a little bit coming into turn, or coming out of turn 13. And Trainman gets past Jimbo as well. The McLaren there dropping 2 positions. And now Trainman's got past Ramsey. However, the Alfa Romeo will try the switch back. Fast the back out a bit. You can't really go too wide through this part of the track. Not holding each other up massively. Gap between 3rd and 4th is coming down ever so slightly, with the Mercedes of Timmy pushing on very hard to try and get that final podium. As this 3-way battle for 8th nearly becomes a 4-way battle for 7th. The trio here just catching up to the back of Jay Prentice in that racing point car. Come down now towards the final couple of corners. Jimbo looks to have dropped back just a little bit. It's quite hard to follow here as Trainman looks to make a move on Jay Prentice coming down to turn 1. The move not quite as early as we've seen coming down the pit straight, but we'll make the move up the inside of turn 1. Not really any defence there from the racing point driver. Just trying to get to the end of the race at this point by the looks of things. We'll now come under pressure from Ramsey and the Alfa Romeo just behind them. And Jimbo will also be looking to make up some more positions here. All gaps towards the front seem to have stabilised at this point. 18 seconds separating the top 3. To come down into this, one of the slowest corners on the calendar here at turn 10. Not quite the slowest on the track. Turn 1 I believe is just a little bit slower, but a lot easier to do. Jay Prentice is now coming under pressure from the Alfa Romeo behind them. Come out of turn 13. Ramsey does go a little bit wide. This race may be decided on penalties for this sort of midfield battle. Then I'll come down the start-finish straight. Overtake deployed for the racing point, trying to hold back the Alfa Romeo. As train Manuel is also putting pressure on Hindle for P6 in this race. Not quite as close as this battle is. You may see Romsey dive up the inside here. Not quite, just thinks better of the move. Not quite close enough, so doesn't try it. Very nearly into this race now, just 3.5 laps left. For all these drivers in the middle sector, a leader coming through the final sector now. Just the battle for P6 gets closer, battle for P7 also gets closer. By now that's P8 battle. As the 6th and 7th are fighting each other. 8th, 9th and 10th also very close on the track. So we've seen a move there. We haven't as well. Trainman getting past Hindle down towards turn 1. Racing Point not quite being able to fight it, and then we look further back and they're side by side. Romsey gets past J Prentice also into turn 1. It's both Racing Points losing 1 position each that time around. Hindle hasn't quite managed to make the move back, whereas J Prentice has in fact dived back up the inside into turn 4. Looks like Jimbo also now trying to get past the Alfa Romeo car. They come flying through this middle sector, the twisty part of the lap. However, Romsey has looked to have held off the McLaren on that particular occasion. However, the other McLaren of that guy Sven is now under pressure from Trainman in the lone Ferrari. So we see another side-by-side battle coming down to turn 11. Romsey just cutting off the Racing Point's front wing just a little bit. Jimbo once again not quite able to capitalise. As J Prentice fighting this battle very hard, then sends it back up the inside of 13. Didn't quite work out. So they come now down into 14. No changes there, however. Sven has just been passed by Trainman for P5 in this race. Once again moving to the inside, further back. We see once again these 3 drivers, almost the same cars. Instead of a Ferrari, it's an Alfa Romeo. J Prentice gets back past the Alfa Romeo, coming into turn 1. So we have just a lap and a half left. Jimbo's still not able to get past. Every time he tries something, it's blocked off. As it looks to have made it work here, gets past Romsey. Coming out of turn 4, there may have been contact between one of, or at least a pair of these trio of drivers. All fighting very hard, no damage to any of the cars by the looks of things. So they come now down into turns 9 and 10. Just up the road from them is this battle here. Hindle looking to put pressure on Sven in the closing stages of this race. The leader crosses the line to make it the final lap of the race. So they all come through then. I mean, behind this battle, we have this battle here, which is going to go all the way to the flag by the looks of things. Jimbo just holding off Romsey for now. Jimbo has stayed within 1 second of J Prentice to get the DRS. He doesn't have the overtake, however. And Romsey will go to the inside, coming down into turn 1. Has made the move work. They go side by side through one. Jimbo not quite being able to hold it around the outside, has lost that position once again. Drops down to P10 in this race. So once again, I think Ramsey's locked up a couple times over the last couple of laps into turn 4. Just seeing some tyre smoke coming off one of the 3 of the cars. It's the battle for P6 between Sven and Hindle gets even closer once again. The Racing Point giving everything possible to gain those extra 2 points for the championship. It's come that maybe the last overtaking opportunity as we go to our leader very briefly as he weaves across the line. Good result there from our race leader. As you would expect, just won the race. Congratulations to him. Natsuki comes across the line to take P2. Head of Lund in P3. Back down then, however, just coming out of turn 13. Jimbo has dropped back a little bit as Romsey and Jay Prentice almost going side by side into the final corner. In fact, they are going side by side through the final corner. Looks like Jay Prentice has actually made that work, stayed ahead. As Trainman drops to P10, finished P5 on track, but drops down to P10 after serving a penalty. And P10 is where they will stay, and that is it for the race. Very entertaining race throughout there. Well done to the, I think, 12 cars that finished the race. Unlucky to the 5 that didn't make it to the checkered flag. Sprint race will be tomorrow. Reversing, I believe, the entire grid, so those 5 that don't will be at the front. I have just seen a thing that we've had 2 comments. I can't see them for some reason, so I do apologise for that. I don't know why, but I can't see the comments, so if you have said something, I apologise, I cannot see it. So now go on to our race classification at the end of this CSGB F1 race. First round of the new season, and Silly Sly Guy wins it from second on the grid. Very strong result there for the Alfa Romeo. Joining him on the podium is the 2 Swedes of Netski and Lund, ahead of Timmy, who has had a very mixed emotion race but finishes up in P4. Racing Point then end up in 5th and 7th, Hindle ahead of Jay Prentice, and Sven separates them in P6. Ahead of the second McLaren of Jimbo, who again had a strong race, finishing up in P8. Romsey in P9 ahead of Trainman, finished down in P10. Rainman and Fefster are the last 2 finishers of the race, ahead of James Vaporshea and the other 3 of Liam, Kazuks and Tribe, who all unfortunately did not make it to the end of the race after race-ending mistakes at various points throughout. That is it then for this feature race here in Bahrain. Please join us tomorrow, same time, I believe 7 PM for the sprint race for the F1 guys. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you tomorrow when F1 returns.